Allow me to read out for you this review of Doctor Who Season 7, the one we are currently discussing here, which Doctor Who and the Silurians is a part of. This is from Rob Matthews from the 16th of the 9th, 2000. This season is generally thought of as one of the show's finest and certainly the best of the Pertwee years. In general, I'd have to agree. Season 7 has a strong sense of place, a strong focus on humanity and its tendency to become its own worst enemy, and an even-handed view of the perils and benefits of science. As often tends to be the case in Who when there's a regeneration or change of direction, the first story in the series tends to be a bit tentative. Though Spearhead from Space is enjoyable, perhaps even the most straightforwardly enjoyable yarn of the season, it's the latter three stories which really give Seven its identity. Each is different, but each has a common theme, and the result is that the season itself has a nice narrative flow, which gives it the feel of a cohesive whole rather than just a bunch of separate stories. It's intelligent and thought-provoking, but like most Who, it's also silly and sometimes rubbish-looking, and this is one of the big problems of Doctor Who in general. Us fans can forgive the appearance of the Silurians and the Primords. We can have a laugh at them certainly, but still appreciate that there's a good story propping up these daft rubber masks and werewolf outfits. With Season 7, the makers have to bear in mind that this is meant to be a children's show, and so seem forced to kind of check themselves every now and then, including things like the Primords and the light bulbs in the Silurians' heads. It's a weird compromise, one that the show always had to struggle with, because those elements which are aimed at the show's target audience are also the ones that come over as intrusive and unnecessary to the grown-ups who appreciate it on a different level. In the case of Season 7, that different level would be the contemporary humanist philosophy that the show is developing. Seriously, would any child comprehend the Doctor's "so free will isn't an illusion after all" from Inferno? So this is the thing. The season is both silly children's entertainment with unconvincing monsters and grim, coldly admirable science fiction drama. It's a paradox of Doctor Who's entire run, but particularly obvious here. I think the virus-struck humans in The Silurians are probably as chilling for adult viewers as for kids. The image of a mutated Geoffrey Palmer lunging around that grey, bleak London is unutterably grim, and Dr. Lawrence is extremely unnerving when he is struck by the plague and loses his marbles. Characterization this season is consistently excellent. I enjoy the relationship of the Doctor and the Brigadier here, not overly friendly and, in fact, downright antagonistic. As has been commented ad infinitum, the Brig and unit have a harder edge here than in later seasons. Liz Shaw is a companion I've always liked, intelligent and not given to screaming, so obviously she had to be replaced for next year by a pretty airhead. It's a pity she and the Doctor never went out on Mulder and Scully type investigations. Lawrence, Carrington, and Stallman make a suitably cautionary set of unhinged officials, and it's good that the final story of the season reminds us that the Doctor is still very much itching to get away from Earth. In Pertwee's debut season, of course, I'm not a big fan of his Doctor. I cringe when he talks about the charming royal family. When does he? Oh, maybe he does in a later episode. But he's got his interpretation of the role pretty much nailed down. In Inferno, particularly, the chin and neck scratching are very much in evidence. The Venusian Aikido, too. Unfortunately, I think he's more doctorly here than in later seasons, because he's more often at odds with those around him. His role as a mediator in both the Silurians and the Ambassadors of Death is very commendable. So a very good season all in all. I still find it admirable rather than enjoyable, except Inferno, which does hold the attention extremely well and actually benefits from its length. But that's just personal taste. The Pertwee era did, in the main, degenerate after this. Still, if this harder approach had to end here, it's good that it concluded with Inferno, which did, after all, feature the end of the world.